Such a mess back there.
Hello, everyone. Renee Funk here with Leadership from the Heart. Elizabeth Riley, co-founder of Leadership from the Heart. We're kicking off 2021. How excited are you?
I am so excited for so many reasons. First of all, I have missed our collaboration and Leadership from the Heart and with everything going on. But I'm excited to have a conversation with our guest today. And that's what, I've been looking forward to this. I don't know how long, right? Because this is a very special guest we have on today.
A very special guest, the one, the only, Rick Miller, author of one of my very favorite books, Be Chief. It's a choice, not a title. Leadership coach, business advisor, and might we just say, Rick, our dear friend. Welcome to Leadership from the Heart.
It's great to be with you. I've had a chance to follow the series when you guys kicked it off, and you guys have been doing some great work. So to be included in this group, I'm delighted, and I guess belated Happy New Year.
That's right. Happy New Year. We still have time. It's still January. We can say Happy New Year.
We can.
I know, but it's still not a lot of time. It's flying by. It's kind of crazy how quick the year is off to start. So, but we're excited. So, Rick, we know you. We know your background. We know the impact you've had on just our lives on a business front and as a personal front. Share your background. Share who you are in Rick Miller's words.
Well, probably the best way to intro is to tell a quick story.
Sure.
And as one you guys know, I grew up in central Massachusetts, the oldest of three. And my dad was a human resource exec. And I learned a lot from both my parents, mostly my dad, because my mom had some health issues, which kept her away from us for a lot of years. But Dad had a particular job that probably influenced everything I've done professionally and much of what I've done personally. He was a human resource exec for a machine tool shop in Worcester, Massachusetts. Now, what's significant about this little machine tool shop that Dad was the human resource exec at was it was the only non-union machine tool shop in the area. Now, I'm not anti-union, but I learned from Dad growing up that unions pop up when management and the employees don't quite get together as easily as perhaps they could. And the union tries to connect them, tries to help them connect. And Dad thought his job was to help people connect, to communicate, to share each other's values and work together. Obviously, it's not a philanthropic enterprise, it's a business, so they needed to produce results. But Dad, in the time that he was there, taught us about connecting and communicating. And so professionally, I've taken a lot of jobs from startups to multinationals, but it was always about trying to get people to connect, to understand each other, to communicate. I always say that communication is the joint construction of meaning. So as hard as one person might be trying to communicate, unless they check in and say, hey, I know what I said, but what did you hear? And it sounds very simple. But every bit of my career, whether it was, again, startups to bigger jobs, it was really only about having people connect. So professionally, yeah, there's been lots of titles, but the titles don't nearly mean much. What really means a lot to me over the years I've been working is the wonderful relationships, among the two of you who we met professionally. But so for me, my background is really all learning about how to connect people, how to be part of a team. I've applied that personally to some philanthropic efforts, currently working a lot with great organizations like Easter Seals and Family Reach, helping families deal with the challenge of cancer. But me, in a nutshell, it's about communicating. It's about reaching out to people. And by the way, I want to kind of use this opportunity, and thank you for it, to tell you what I'm excited about. I don't know if you guys saw the inauguration yesterday, but is everybody around the world like buzzing about Amanda Gorman? I mean, if you didn't see that
was
Youth
powerful.
Poet Laureate, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, and so here's one of the things that I was reading up on her last night, and here was one of my favorite quotes attributed to Amanda. Words have the power to change the world, and that realization inspires me every day. And so I don't know. I get turned on by all kinds of things, but I'll tell you what. I woke up this morning with a big smile on my face. I knew we were going to have a chance to do this today. But thank you, Amanda, for bringing such a great light into the world. So that's my opening soliloquy.
One of the things that you've taught us that I carry with me still to this day and consider myself a student in forever is about words and how powerful they are. Rick, you are an amazing question asker. I know that's so official, but you ask the right questions at the right time, which I see it as such a great connector tool because you're learning more about the person. You have an opportunity to earn more of a relationship in a deeper way. Talk to us a little bit about how important those questions are as people are navigating through business and building relationships.
It's a great question, and it's something that I have come to understand as a result of my professional life, which probably, you talk about a question asker, and that is good.
That's an official term. Did you know?
Well,
New title.
and you guys know that one of the labels that I carry in addition to question asker is nudge. I'm a professional nudge.
Yes.
I'm constantly asking questions to nudge you, well-intentioned, but I'm a nudger, right? Some say I'm an optimizer. And I've learned so much from other people who have taught me. And again, in business, I worked at a bunch of different industries, a bunch of different situations. And now as a coach and a consultant, I find myself regularly in situations where I'm the least knowledgeable person in the room about a particular industry, about a particular domain. I mean, I'm working with sometimes chief executive officers who've been running their company for 25 or 30 years. And I show up and what am I going to tell her or him that they don't know about their company? So the value, Renee and Elizabeth, really is about the opportunity to ask questions, maybe that they haven't asked themselves or their teams. So it really did come out of professional life, as well as influence of my dad. But the opportunity to start just where questions will take you. And you don't have to have, as the person who's trying to serve, you'd like to have the answers, right? But unless you want to let your ego get in the way, you really don't, right? All you can really serve is help the people that you're working with explore maybe areas that they hadn't thought to explore already, or maybe in deeper ways or in different ways. So, diversity of experience is so important because it can help you ask good questions, and the questions just lead to that joint construction of meaning, right? Because as you're answering my question, I may or may not understand. So I may ask a follow-up question just to learn, which may cause the person sharing it with me maybe a different way of expressing it, which may give them a new insight. So it's a real fun process, and it does produce some pretty good results as well.
The nudge, I'm sure some of my team members are watching right now, so they can drop a comment into our thread here, and they will share with you. Renee might use nudge a lot, or even maybe some of them say too much, but I directly learned that from Rick, that it's a nice, gentle, I'm nudging you in a direction to consider, right? Mm-hmm. Got that from you.
Yeah, and you're definitely the professional nudger. And in full disclosure, with all of us working from home now, my yard guys have decided to show up. So if I'm muting in and out and it gets a little loud, I'm sorry. One of the things with you and questions, Rick, even when we first met, you always ask the questions, like Renee said, they're very intentional, but you make that person feel like you were completely focused on them, right? And I think so many times when we're asking questions or we're talking to people, we're so busy, and I find myself at fault for this. And you're like, wait a minute, I asked the question, but I didn't really wait for the answer. I didn't really hear the answer. As our friend Jill Liebernight likes to say, I'm full body listening. And you always, as busy as you are and were, and when we were in those situations where there's a lot of people vying for your attention and wanting to talk to you, you're always full body listening and asking those questions, and you're really truly wanting to know the answers. And what I love about what you just said, as far as, hey, maybe think a little differently, it also avoids the situation where you might think you know something in one way and it really wasn't the intention at all, or there was a miscommunication. So it avoids a lot of potential conflict that really needs to ever happen. And so I love your questions. I love that Renee asked that. But the nudging part, I've never had somebody nudge me so much in business. And it's awesome because it helps us grow. It helps us think bigger, think differently. And so that's one thing I really appreciate about you.
Well, thank you. And I think it gets to, we're talking about a subject that the three of us have talked about privately. Let's bring the rest of the audience in. We're talking honestly about a redefinition of the word power, right? We're talking about what is real power. And power, I think, is about clarity, right? If you are clear and also we're trying to get is some element of clarity. And so these questions often lead to someone's ability to express themselves maybe more clearly. If I don't understand, I own the fact that maybe I'm not getting it, but you as the person who's trying to explain to me have to own a little bit, well, maybe I'm not being as clear as I need to be. And clarity is such an important part of power. And as you work your business, you both work them very successfully, and with lots of people, how efficient. I mean, one of the things you both are always talking about is there isn't enough time. There isn't enough time. Well, there certainly isn't enough time to re-explain and re-explain and re-explain. If you are clear, given all the other challenges you have in business people, whether it's a small business, maybe it's a solopreneur, or the people who run multinationals, clarity is so important. And the questions that we offer each other are really just an opportunity for us to learn how to be clearer in how we communicate, which benefits everybody around us.
Well, we have a lot of real estate agents watching naturally, and we've spent a lot of time on Leadership from the Heart talking about overcoming adversity, especially in business that everyone around the globe has faced over the last year. Specifically, I like the thought that you're talking about the questions we're asking and how it helps us gain clarity, how it helps us learn about the individual that we're communicating with, which I think lends itself to the next part. And it's a part that I have highlighted because, by the way, if you haven't read this book, you must read it. It comes out. We highlight it. I have some bookmarks. This is a revisit. But one of the things that you have in here that I'd love you to elaborate on is telling stories that exemplify your message. Stories are remembered while facts and figures fade. Can we talk a little bit about that? It's important for business owners and realtors.
Well, Jill Liebernight was already mentioned on this call, and let's talk about the queen of storytelling, Jill, who if ever you want to learn a little bit about storytelling, there's plenty of people who will talk about it at a level 1. Talk to Jill if you ever get a chance. She's a level 5. So we've all learned from Jill in terms of the art of storytelling. The examples, big time heart for our friend Jill. But my example is one of walking into organizations, being, for example, the first new officer hired by AT&T in their 100-year history. When I walked in the door, there was no experience with an outsider coming in at a senior level, and there was an awful lot of skepticism. Why is this person here? So this is an example, a story, if you will, Renee, to answer your question about stories. When I had a chance to talk to a number of wonderful employees at AT&T when I joined, they all wanted to know what's important, right? What's important to you? There's got to be some reason that you're here. And I told a story about a prior assignment when I promoted, and everybody likes to know who gets promoted, right? In a larger organizations, what do I need to do to get more money? And what do I need to do to get promoted? All this other stuff is kind of window dressing. How do I move up or how do I get more? That's what people really want to know. So knowing that, I said to the group, I told them a story about in a prior life, one of the things that I did that I thought was successful for the organization was I promoted a branch manager who had missed his revenue objectives. Now, immediately I had everybody's attention, right? Why would you promote someone who missed their revenue objectives? Are you crazy? And then it gave me the opportunity to tell the story that I think success with any customer or any manager, if it comes in 3 areas. You've got to take care of the customer, clearly. You've got to make sure that you're making your numbers, right, from the share owner perspective, and you got to take care of your employees. So they're kind of listening now, and I'm going, okay, so let's talk about this. First, let's talk about employees. This branch manager had an incredible employee satisfaction scores. He had done an incredible job making sure that everybody had great development plans. He took great care of his people, number one. Number two, his customer satisfaction scores were off the charts. So we really invested in his customers, which is great. Now let's talk about the share owners. Yes, he missed his revenue numbers that 1 year, but it was only because he had made his revenue numbers for the 4 preceding years and had just sold a huge new contract the year before that he spent most of this year implementing. So he couldn't sell new business. He had to guarantee that that customer got all the benefits and values they thought they were going to get when they bought this. So I explained this and said, you've got to take a holistic view and understand that this person was wildly successful. So the message wasn't, as I told the story, well, don't make your revenue numbers and Miller's going to promote you. The message that everybody got away from the story was, guess what? This individual believes that employee growth and customer satisfaction and making your revenue numbers are equally all important. So I better tend to all three if I want to get on his good list. So that little story is one that you may remember about the branch manager who got promoted and didn't make his numbers. Rather than me talking about in platitudes, let me tell you about the importance of customer satisfaction. And it's like, wah, 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 wah.
Well, and that's a reminder too, that it's not just what's in black and white and what you think, right? You have to look at the big picture. You have to look at the elements of the story, right? That's something I try to implement in my business as well. But I've heard you say that and share that before. And it's a huge reminder to us all. It's not what you might think. There might be other viewpoints, right? And when I go back to when we met so many years ago, I mean, I don't even remember, when was it? 2015, 2016, maybe 2015?
I think it was 2016. Yep.
Okay. And we didn't know who you were, right? You were our keynote, and keynotes always offer different things. Whether, okay, this is what you need to do, this is what you have to do. But your keynote was so different and more impactful that I think we were all kind of on the edge of our seats to hear what you had to say, because you were speaking our language, but you were enhancing our language, right? So you're talking about relationships, you're talking about communication, which we all feel like we do pretty well, but then you were elevating it. Like, wait a minute, but have you thought about this? And you talked about what my big aha when I met you during that keynote. In fact, we didn't know you yet. After that keynote, I was like, I gotta meet Rick Miller, right? The big aha for me was you were talking about your book. You wrote your book, Be Chief. It's not a title. That was an eye-opening for me, right? Because everybody is always trying to talk about, well, the title and moving up and promoting and, this is my new title and this is my new title and I want this title. And you brought it back out of the business. You're like, everybody has a title. Anybody can be chief of their environment, whether it's a single mom, whether it's a teacher, whether it's mom in your household. That was eye-opening to me. And you just communicating that out and having people look at it outside of a business. So many keynotes just talk about business. Mm-hmm. But what you were so skilled at is it's not just business. Look at the surrounding story. Look at what people are trying to tell you. Look at the power in people in different ways. And power has always been, to me, before that conversation, has always been a negative word, right? Mm-hmm. All about strongholding, all about arrogance, all about I'm better than you, right? I've never liked that word power until I met Rick Miller, until I read his book, Be Chief, until I understood his power compass, right? So that's, the powerful, for lack of a better word, when you can change the perceptions of people and have them live their lives better and impact others better just because of the words and how you communicate it out. So talk about the compass, because that is, it's a big eye opener, and it's a big thing to implement, not only in business, but also our daily lives.
Well, thanks, Elizabeth. Thanks for those thoughts. The first thing I want to be real clear about with the Power Compass is it's free. Talked about a wonderful book that, yes, you can buy this book and all proceeds go to charity, and that's fine. But if you take nothing else out of this segment, understand that what power truly is something each of us can define, as Elizabeth just did. I think power is about clarity and energy and confidence and influence and impact. And we can all have that no matter what title we have or don't have. As you say, stay at home mom, doesn't
Mhm.
matter. Stay at home dad, don't care. You know, you can have those five things. It's important first to decide that's your definition of power. The power compass that Elizabeth mentioned is free. If you want to take a look at it free, it's on beingchief.com. It's on, just click the survey on beingchief.com. You can take it for free. So once you decide that power can be redefined, did you know you can measure power? You can measure it. You can give yourself a score. How powerful am I? Clarity and energy and confidence. So after you measure it, you can increase your power. Simple, small steps to increase your clarity, increase your impact, increase your confidence. And it's free. Right? One more time, it's free. Okay? Simple to do. But really significantly, once you determine what power is and you measure it and you increase yours, you'll get simple tips to spread it.
Mhm.
Power spreads. We talk about cascading chiefs, right? The idea of a ripple effect. Just, and this is the idea of everyone can be a leader, right? People think, well, wait a minute, I don't have anybody that I manage. How can I be a leader? It really has to do with the influence that we all have, right? Just by being the best version of ourselves. Now, people will use that expression, right? Someone will say, be all you can be your best self. Well, that all sounds fine. How do you do that? Well, the Power Compass gives you simple questions, my favorite thing, for you
Right.
to ask, for you to ask yourself and say, would I make a small change in this one area? Because Renee's different from Elizabeth, different from me, from everybody else. There's no one size fits all. That's why a compass, right? The idea of a power compass is only meant to help you set your own direction. You're unique. All of us are unique. What works for you won't work for me, and vice versa. But this is really a customizable tool that allows you to figure out where do you want to go and what small steps can you take to get that definition of power. And again, the compass is highlighted in the book, right? It is in the book, second edition of Be Chief, right? Great to buy. And again, 100% of author proceeds go to Easter Seals, a wonderful charity. So I love that aspect of it. But please understand the tool right now, right after you watch this great podcast, go right off to beingchief.com, click survey, and measure your own power and start to spread it. If you do only that, then it won't cost you a thing, but may increase an awful lot of your power.
The power compass is important, not only from a personal standpoint. When I took the power compass for the first time that I heard you speak about it, I believe in Dallas, I took it from a professional standpoint in my role as a realtor, in my role as a team leader. But then I've had the opportunity and pleasure to hear you share as keynote speaker on more than one occasion. And the subsequent times, I really went at it as more of a mom, as a household, as a how am I showing up and what is my power and influence within those that I love personally. I think it's really important to point out that it's when you define that for yourself, it can be multifaceted. It's not just about how we are at work. And the word power does have a negative connotation at times, and that can be flipped upside down because it shouldn't. Even if we're influencing and supporting and collaborating with one human being, there's an element of power that we can cascade throughout and hopefully all the while uplift the others around us.
Well, and what you're saying, Renee, is interesting because yes, you can look at it from different angles of your life. But what I find fascinating is every time I take it, right? So I will take it and then implement those little tweaks, right, Rick? Just a little bit of different because it's giving you clarity. You're like, oh, interesting. I scored in that way in that area. I wouldn't have thought that. And then you tweak some things and you come back, whether it's quarterly or monthly or whatever makes sense, but you score differently. So it's always, for me, it's always a way for me to keep improving. I'm never going to master any or all of it, right? but I can keep improving. And oh, okay, so my clarity is great here, my confidence is great here, but I need to really work on XYZ. And when you go back to the meanings and the definitions of all of that, I mean, we talk about power was always negative to me. Um, Leader or influencer, or I never wanted any of that to come across as arrogance. And you changed my mindset on that, because people would always say, well, you're the boss, or you're whatever. I'm like, no. Because my heart is all collaborative, right? I want to come at it. And so I would always back off from those words, right? And that, because I never wanted that to be the intention. But when you do the Power Compass, when you read your book, when you understand what you're talking about, and that it's not a negative thing, and being chief doesn't mean you have to be boss. Being chief means I can be chief in my way, in my community, in my household, in my friend circle, and adding value to their lives without me saying, well, I am boss, listen to me, right? Which I don't think society approaches that word or concept in that way. So I love the Power Compass, but I love that it always allows us to build and continue to improve. I mean, it's progress, not perfection, right? But if you're checking in at all times and saying, oh, I'm really doing well in this area of my life differently than I thought, okay, now I can focus my energies here. It's powerful.
Well, and the idea is, again, and you both have taken it multiple times, the idea is, what small tweaks can you make? I mean, again, we all just come off the New Year holiday, and New Year's resolutions are part of what a lot of people come up with, and how many are still following those resolutions a month later, 2 months later, 3 months later. And many times, by the way, resolutions, I'm going to drop this amount of weight, I'm going to increase this amount of income, it's all, but this is all about small steps, very small steps that you decide based on your priorities. And to your point, if you decide on January 1st, I'm going to change these 10 things in my life, probability of success is not all that high. We are human beings, right? So take one or two, work on a little bit, and then come back and take it again. One thing I want to add, and this is, for me, and I'm so glad you said those words, Elizabeth, because, the word chief, which is chief executive officer, all these chief titles are these corner offices, which is kind of intimidating to people. And I was inspired by Amanda, and I came up with my own. I was just jotting down this morning. She came up with the words have the power to change the world. And one of the things the Power Compass asks you to do is to list your top 4 values. Right. This is part of the confidence area, and the suggestion I make is that once you figure out where you stand, you can take a stand. When you take a stand, independent of where you are in some org chart, you're powerful. So one of my core 4 values is equality. So how does that show up? Well, here's the quote that I inspired by Amanda. My quote was, I can learn something from everyone I meet, just as I have something to share in return. And that realization inspires me every day, right? So the idea that we're all chiefs in some way. I can learn something from anybody I meet, as I feel like I can offer something of some value. And it's that mindset as you interact with people, as you communicate and jointly construct meaning, and realize that everyone's got power. And so as we work together to increase our collective power with ripple effects and cascades, this thing can spiral up really easily, as long as we go in, I think, with living our values.
I'd love for us to touch on servant leadership for a moment, if you don't mind. You have mentioned, and I have them both here, right? Casey's kite too. Love that you are donating all proceeds to the books to Easter Seals. Those who may not have yet had an opportunity to meet you, though, it's much deeper than that in the way that you are a leader and a mentor and a business coach. You put a lot of attention and focus on how we can cascade our effects out as servant leaders in our community. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Sure. And let me just make a slight tweak to what you offered. It's true that all author proceeds of Be Chief go to Easter Seals. wonderful organization, which, by the way, plug for Easter Seals. I say that Easter Seal serves the youngest, the oldest, the most challenged, and the most deserving among us. What does that mean? It means Easter Seals runs child development programs. They run programs for senior citizens. They run programs for the disabled, and they do a wonderful job supporting our vets. So that's what Easter Seals does. You mentioned, and we haven't spent a lot of time on this little book called Casey's Kite. Casey's Kite is my attempt to share leadership ideas with children of all ages. All proceeds from that book go to a wonderful organization called Family Reach, which focuses on supporting families undergoing cancer therapy right now. So between Easter Seals and Family Reach, we try to get money to a couple different places. But Casey's Kite just came out in September, did very well through the holidays, and kids of all ages can learn about leadership at a young age, about communication, about connecting for a higher good. And again, I'm hoping that Casey's Kite gets some attention as well, because it's going to a great charity, and I think it's got the great message. But to your point on servant leadership, again, this is what I learned at home. I know both your backstories, and I know you guys have learned the same and are applying that in the community as well. There's just so many wonderful opportunities to serve, whether it is community service or whether it is the approach you take at work with those that you serve. Leadership, again, many people have an older, dated view of leadership, which is somewhat paternalistic or maternalistic, where I'm kind of looking after you. You know, I'm doing my best to, to help you because you're not quite where I am. And that's
It's top down, right, Rick?
Exactly.
Like that top down as opposed to emerging.
So well said. You guys live it. So, I mean, I should be the one asking you questions because you guys are so comfortable in the topic. And servant leadership, there's a lot of great books on servant leadership, the idea of truly coming in with a servant's heart, realizing you get so much more when you give than when you receive. And the gratitude and the generosity, and those are big parts of both books, are something that talks to our opportunity. It gets to our values, right? Service is one of my core 4 values. By the way, my 4, and I'll ask you what yours are in a minute, so get ready. I'm going to buy you a little time, right? So my 4 are truth, service, equality, and connection. So my challenge to myself is that when I live my life, do people, if asked, what does Rick stand for, right? What are the things that when you think of Rick, what do you think of, right? And I'm hoping that through what I say, what I do, the choices I make, that what comes through regularly is I am just crazy about equality. It's just, we are all equal, all of us, we are. We're all connected. And if we're truthful with each other and come with a servant's heart, the world will be a better place. So I believe in those core 4, not that there aren't wonderful attributes outside those, but I try to live, eat, sleep, breathe, and dream those 4, and I try to stand for those. So knowing that I've given you as much time as I can. I've dragged this out now, right? So you guys are talking about taking the compass.
Hold
so
on.
I'm putting you on the spot now, right? I'm dragging this out. All right, we'll go to you first, Renee. What are your core 4 values?
Core 4, number 1 is service. Number 2 is collaboration. I don't know if this can be considered, but I have to say family.
Of course it is.
Is that okay? Because that's where it's at.
Sure.
And then 4th, fun.
So my guess is, knowing you as I do, people who know Renee on your team or in the community, if someone said, what does Renee stand for? My guess is family and fun and collaboration. I didn't remember the 4th. All there. I mean, again, it's who you are, and this is the power. I think the real power behind the compass and everything else. When you stand for something, and everybody around you says, "Wow, Renee has an energy." Why? Because she's living her values. She's got a clarity because she's living her values. She's got a confidence because she's living her values, and as a result, she has influence and impact in the community, right? And so it does start with those values. How about you, Elizabeth?
So I would say mine is authenticity, service, family, and collaboration.
Yeah, again, same example, right? I mean, people who know you would say, "Yep, that's
Y'all know
Elizabeth.
me, shocker, right?
That's Elizabeth." So I think for again everybody taking a look at and considering how to use your time, the Power Compass is meant to give you again the things that Elizabeth and Renee have in spades, right? It is about clarity. It is about energy. It's about confidence, influence, and impact. So that's what this is about.
I love it. I love paying it forward. And back to your Casey's Kite book. When that book showed up at my doorstep, I did not even get to read it. My daughter, my 7-year-old, took it and immediately was on the couch reading it, all bundled up in the. I think I sent you a picture. Did I send
You
you a
did.
picture of that? Right?
You did.
It was the sweetest thing. And I'm like, why don't we read it together? She's like, you can read it after me, Mom. I'm like, okay. It is down in her room. I mean, I've read it, but and we've read it together, but it was awesome that she took it and she was so intently focused on it. And she's like, no, Mom, I'm going to read this on my own. You can read it next. So it's a great, great, great book. And I mean, again, we know you. I love the fact that your daughter's Casey. And so I think I read the story differently, I think, than maybe everybody else would that doesn't know you,
Mhm.
because it was, her dad and it's Casey and it's you. So it's a great book. Great, great book.
One of the things I love about the book, by the way, I hope, Rick, that there's more of these to come, because as a mom, it's really nice to have resources for our kids. Lizette just asked, what's the name? Lizette, it's Casey's Kite. Make sure you pull it up and grab a copy for yourself. But
You will love it.
You will love it. It's amazing. It resonates with parents and kids alike, all ages. What I love about having a resource like Casey's Kite, especially as a mom that's trying to teach the kids that we're working hard and we're working toward this North Star, toward this vision and toward the goals that we have, is that sometimes I feel like I'm that Charlie Brown teacher, like want, 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 want. And so the more that we have awesome resources like this, that's another voice, another storyteller is affirming what we're doing in our household. So please bring us more leadership books for kids are welcome, Rick.
It's that third party verification, like that mom and dad actually know what they might be talking about, but they don't want to listen to us directly.
This is our nudge to you, by the way.
There you go. So Rick, it's your fault that you taught us to nudge and you nudged us all these years. So now we're going to nudge back.
I love return nudges. I will just tell you that, as you guys know, the first version of Be Chief only took me 10 years to get published. You might not know that it only took me 6 years to get Casey's Kite published. So these are not quick things. Lots go into them. And while I love all my roles, nudge, and everything else that we do, these two may be it, sports fans.
I don't know. You're a pro at it now. You're a pro. So, and it's, talking about Casey's Kite and Lexi, my little one reading that. I mean, my oldest one, Trip, read Be Chief, right? And I mean, he's 14, but I was like, how powerful is this book and message? And so, I mean, it's great to not only for adults and parents, adults, but as parents, pass it to your kids, let them read into it. And you have great stories. And then when you're talking about the military experiences and things like that, I mean, my kids were sucked in. So, we're talking about this book for adults and leadership and all these other things, but it's just not one group. It's not one size fits all. It's for everybody. So,
well, thanks for saying that. I know that through the holidays just passed, I know that Casey's Kite did incredibly well with grandparents.
Yeah,
who are looking to start their grandkids off they would say an advantage. I got so many emails and posts on social that said, "Hey, I want to," and well intentioned, they want to give a nice story, but it's a little different. I mean, there's a lot of kids books out, but this one is just a little different. But it seems to be filling a need. So I'm delighted. And I'm also delighted, as I say, that a wonderful charity and Family Reach is getting the author proceeds. They do a wonderful job nationwide supporting families challenged with cancer.
Awesome.
Servant leadership. We appreciate you, Mr. Rick Miller. We appreciate you, your leadership, your friendship,
Your
and of
mentorship.
course, for joining us on Leadership from the Heart and kicking off 2021. We appreciate you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for the opportunity. It's great to see you.
So we always ask this question, and I'm kind of excited to hear your answer. Okay. So before we close, we want to know, what does leadership from the heart mean to Rick Miller?
Well, no surprise, leadership from the heart means exactly what we've already talked about, which is from what's at the center, what's at my core, right? My core is my values, right? At the very heart of what I do, it's about knowing how blessed I am to be amidst so many wonderful people. And the blessing is really knowing that you're blessed, right? That's really the blessing. It's grace. And knowing that I have an opportunity to learn from everyone that I meet and offer something with the best of intentions, whether it takes or not. You never know, right? It's the communication, joint construction thing. But at the heart of everything, it really are those four things. It's realizing that we come to this as kindred spirits. We come to this with complete equality. We come to this with wanting the same things, maybe using different languages and sometimes different symbols. Different religions go different ways, but at the core of everything, we're all trying to help family and friends be the best they can be as we do it ourselves. So at the heart of leadership from the heart, I think it's gratitude. I think it's gratitude for the opportunity I have to participate on a session like this and swap ideas and give something, but always take something away. So thank you for what you two have offered and continue to offer in this platform.
Well, we are grateful for you, for everything, and for you being in our world. So thank you for coming on today with us.
Thank you, Rick. Elizabeth, great to see you, and continue to follow us on Leadership from the Heart. Make it an awesome day.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone. Bye. Yay.